Alright, what's going on, Forgotten Nation? I'm your host, FG, and today we're playing some more arcade classics. This is Flicky for the Sega Genesis, starring Flicky, Chirp, Tiger, and Iggy, of course. Now, despite what it may seem being on the Sega Genesis, this is actually a matter of fact an arcade game released in 1984, nearly 7 years before being ported to the Sega Genesis, as well as him making his appearance in Sonic the Hedgehog, where he'd become a core staple in the franchise as one of the many animal friends Sonic would have to save from Dr. Robotnik, starring as both inside the Badnik monsters, as well as those end capsules that you'd find after the boss fights. And from there, Flicky would star in many other games, such as the sequel, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and further on carry out through the series, with one of the more later appearances being Sonic Lost World, where you can actually see a full 3D render of the character. Pretty cool stuff. But that's not why we're here today. Today we're looking at the first and only outing as a solo character, because Flicky the arcade game, just like many other arcade games of course, is a quarter burner. What I mean by that is that this is made to be a pretty difficult game, and though there's 40 stages total, the main objective, of course, is to go for the high score. So guide Flicky and his chirplets to the door. There's only one button that you use both to jump and to shoot projectiles at enemies. And the idea, of course, as I mentioned, is to go for the high score. So let's go straight into the game and see what we got going on here. Now, of course, you play as Flicky. You can move left, you can move right. And the idea is to get the chirps to the door. Now, along the way, you do have to watch out for the enemies, such as Tiger here, but you could shoot the projectiles, such as this stage we have flower pots. And as time goes on, more enemies will appear in the stage through these cubby holes here. So you don't want to spend too much time in the stage. As a matter of fact, the faster you go, the more points you get as a time bonus. So this game relies pretty much on a lot of speed and a lot of luck, just like other arcade games do, as a matter of fact. So if you really want the high score, you have two ways of tackling it. You can move through the stages fast, or you can continue to pummel the enemies you see in front of you. But this does not mean that the game itself is going to get any easier, because like many other games, the further you get in, the more enemies that start to appear, the more hard the level design starts to get, and the more that is thrown at you. But that's already 2 stages. Every 2-3 stages, it starts to change later on. You have the bonus round, and all you have to do is catch the Flickies as they fall down. Now, though we have a net, you don't have to use the net. You just gotta get it to land on Flicky himself. So, we got 16 out of 20 chirps. Pretty good, even though I missed the 4. But right now, we're doing pretty good. So, as I mentioned, there's 40 stages total. And though many of the designs in the background may look the same, the layouts are always different, so this game is pretty unique to that fact. But once you reach stage 40, though you get the end credits, the game itself is one of those games that repeat itself. We're gonna go for this tiger here, there we go. So, though there's 40 stages, that's really the end of the game there, unless you're going for the high score. Not much different compared to other arcade games, but it would be nice to have maybe a little more, especially for the Sega Genesis port. But for what it is, I don't mind it, because it plays a lot like the arcade version. As a matter of fact, there are some differences between this and the arcade version. For starters, there's the layout. As you can see, the stages are made to repeat. As you continue forward, you are going to continue to see the same set piece again and again. Oh, watch out for Tiger. Okay, he's going to come for us, so we're going to try to attack him. Wait for it. There we go. As I was saying, the arcade version and the Sega Genesis port are very much different. And the first difference is the layouts. So, as you can see, moving left to right, the stages themselves are always repeating. But the arcade version was made to be vertical, meaning that while here you can see left and right a lot more, there's more space to be found, the arcade version looks just like, say, Pac-Man, Galaga, Dig Dug, where it's going up and down, so that means the stages themselves are much longer when you're looking at it up and down, which means you can be pretty blind to what's coming at you left and right at moments. So there is that difference there. The other difference, like many other games ported for the Genesis, is the color palette. As the arcade version, oh my gosh, I got lucky. As the color palette is much brighter due to the technology used for the arcade version. If anything, I would like to consider the Genesis version a much better version of Flicky to be played. And we just got attacked, lost a life. That's not looking good. Because of the small changes made. If anything, one of the biggest reasons I prefer this over the arcade version is the music. Because the music sounds really good here, but if you listen to the arcade version, not gonna sound too good. And whether it's because of the different technology used for the arcade machine, or whether it's just handling it different here, something about it sounds much different in the arcade version. But for what it is, I don't mind it here. The game itself can get repetitive after a while because the gameplay doesn't really change too much. It's much similar to games like Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Yalka. I knew I've mentioned them already, but it is an arcade game after all. Where the stages, though they change, it is still the same game itself with the gameplay. The gameplay never changes. You still gotta get the chicks to the door. You still have to watch out for the enemies. And sure, they change up a bit. Sure, there's more, oh gosh. There's more tigers. Eventually they throw in Izzy. Or Lizzie, I forget the name, honestly. So the game is gonna get much harder, but the game itself is fixed. So, after a while, you may find yourself bored, and you actually might stop playing just because of what's happening on screen. So that's already game over. Made it pretty far in, honestly. Much better than my first attempt at the game. But for what it is, that's going to do it for Flicky here. I'm not looking to tackle the high score, I'm just looking to talk about it. But one more thing I want to mention is that one of the first ways I played Flicky was actually thanks to the Sonic Mega Collection. And I'm sure many others have played it through that compilation. And I never actually knew Flicky was an arcade game until a couple of years ago when I started looking up for YouTube videos. So it's pretty cool that, though we know it mostly as a home console game, it did have an origin in the arcade. And that does suit well the gameplay that we see here on screen. So it's cool that there are some games you would never know are actually in the arcade. And especially the cabinet itself is on the harder side to actually find. I don't know many arcades around here in Illinois that actually have a working Flicky arcade machine. But for what it is, pretty cool stuff. Now that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys liked what you watched. If you want to see me cover the arcade version in the future, do let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see any other arcade games, or even Sega Genesis games for that matter, covered in the future, be sure to let me know. But that's going to do it for this video, so thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Alright, so here's some more arcade games in the future.